Okay, we're going to be throwing from the hump. So I've already put on about maybe 6 pounds of clay. Actually, probably a little more. And I'm making these little mini bowls. I find it's helpful to just know, just with your fingers versus measuring or anything like that. Just something that feels good easily to figure out a size. So for me, what I'm doing is just to these knuckles right here. I'm just grabbing in to grab that first piece of clay, and that's the only one that I really need centered. The bottom can be off center. I do center it anyway, or at least halfway down, because I find otherwise it's distracting. But you really don't need to. And then essentially going in like you would any other normal bowl. You can see my bat has a wobble to it. That's annoying, but... And so I'm going in, and now I'm opening up. You do really want to compress the bottom, which is running your finger along the bottom, back and forth, especially when throwing from the hump, since you don't have a hard surface to compress the clay against, like the bat or the wheel head, and it's just more clay under there. So you want to go back and forth so that hopefully you avoid cracking in the drying. Now I set my lip, I dry up my inside, and then I pull up, like as if this is, you know, right where my wheel is. And, you know, you just get to know the distance for where your bottom is versus where you went in to make that dent. And I find, again, you're just going to be able to use your finger to make that mark for, okay, that's right where I'm going to have my bottom be. And then when I cut it off, I'm going to cut it off from there. Okay, so I'm just going to set my lip again, pull up again. I like to hold the sponge, but you don't need to. And maybe it's easier to see if I do it without the sponge for you. So I'm grabbing my clay down low, getting that dent of clay, and then I'm bringing that clay from the bottom up my little mini bowl, all the way up to the top. I set my lip, I dry up the inside. The reason why you dry the inside up so often is just so that you avoid getting cracking when sometimes if it stays water in there too long, it just weakens the clay. And I am working with a cone 6 porcelain clay, which is not like to really be dried too fast, and it also doesn't like too much water because it's such a fine clay, even though it's super strong. Okay, because my sponge was in there. Okay, took that out. So now I'll do one last pull up where I'm really now doing my best to have the walls be even from bottom to top. And then I'm going to set my lip one last time. And now if I really want to have a consistent shape and size, again, you could have something to measure, or you could just use something like, you know, your finger, okay, you know, so you make the next one to that same height. And then I like to have a little swirl in the bottom, so I'm going to push in and pull my finger out across the bottom just faster than my wheel is spinning. And you don't have to use a rib on the side, but sometimes if I want to get a consistent curving shape, I like to then use a rib where I just make that curve, and then I push out from the inside just to meet that curve. And I like to end with setting the lip with a piece of plastic, which I know I have over here someplace. I just like to use a piece of dry cleaning plastic just to finish off and really smooth that rim. and then cutting it off. You could just use your fingers, but I'm going to define it with this tool. Also, if you wanted to, you could avoid having to trim these by really doing the majority of the work now, which this is also then clay that you could easily reuse again since it's fresh. Okay, so right there where I made that line is where I'm going to pull my wire tool through. You don't have to do this while it's spinning. And the key is to just be steady, and then you can lift your pot up. Take it off. And you're ready to go again for the next one. And again, you only need to center this top part. So I bring some more clay up there. And again, I grab it based on the size for my fingers. Sometimes what's tricky is when you're grabbing that, you get this indent on the top, and you don't want that to happen now. You want it to be all strong clay on the top. So it's a good idea to make sure that you check that that's not happening to you, and if it is, you just want to push down on the clay at the top and bring it down your side a little bit. Okay, so here's my little top spot. I'm going to go in, pull out, compress across the bottom, set my lip, try out my inside, and then pull up, pushing in at the bottom to get that dent of clay, and then bringing that bulge that it makes up your pot, spreading the clay up, and then setting your lip. And again, just finding something that is like using your finger as a tool for measuring your height. If you wanted consistent little mini bowls or mini pots, whatever you were making. Put that swirl in the bottom. I'm going to set my lip with a piece of plastic. And the idea with the plastic is you just hold it straight, but don't try to pull it too taut. Let it get taut once the pot gets on it, and then you move your thumb sort of just towards each other around that edge. And then I like to use that metal rib. And now I'm just making sure that my fingers are just wet enough to slide on the inside, but I don't want to end up leaving a puddle in there. And if it does leave a puddle, just sponge it out. Leave a little puddle. Making that really clear defined line where I'm going to put my wire tool through. Looks like my lip could be used to be set one last time, but that's okay. And there you go, and you keep going. Alright, go for it.